The massive ship moved through space like a dark metal beast. It was 3 times bigger than any human city. The Draktar warship Deathbringer cut through the stars toward the peaceful planet below. On the bridge, Commander Velthak stood tall. His crystal-like skin caught the light from the control panels. 4 powerful arms crossed over his chest as he watched the blue and green world spin slowly. "How many live down there?" Velthak asked. His voice was deep and rough like grinding stones. 12 million Zalani, Commander," answered his officer. "They have no weapons, no spaceships. They are farmers and artists." Velthak nodded. This would be easy. It always was. For 3,000 years, the Draktar had conquered world after world. Every species they found either became their slaves or died. No one had ever fought back and won. No one had ever even hurt a Draktar warrior in battle. The Zalani were small blue creatures with large eyes. They lived in pretty cities made of white stone. They grew food, made art, and sang songs. They had never hurt anyone. They did not even know what war meant. "Send the message," Velthak ordered. The communication beam shot down to the planet. On every Zalani screen, radio, and speaker, the same words played. Velthak's face appeared cold and scary. "I am Commander Velthak of the Draktar Empire. Your world now belongs to us. You have 1 day to surrender. Gather in your city centers. Wait for our ships. Resist, and you will all die. This is your only warning." The message ended. On the planet below, millions of Zalani stared at their screens in fear. They had heard stories of the Draktar. Whole species had vanished when the Crystal Warriors came. Some worlds were empty now, with only bones and broken buildings left behind. Far away, near the edge of the solar system, another ship moved through space. This one was much smaller. It was white and blue with the symbol of Earth painted on its side. The Sol Dawn was an exploration ship from humanity's growing fleet. It carried 120 people whose job was to find new worlds and make friends with aliens. Captain Lee Dae-ho sat in his command chair, reading reports. He was 45 years old with kind eyes and graying hair. He had been exploring space for 20 years. In all that time, he had found many strange and wonderful things. He had met aliens who looked like giant flowers, others who were made of living metal, and some who could change their shape like water. Most aliens were peaceful. Most just wanted to trade and share knowledge, Captain, called Lieutenant Kim Tae-woo from his station. "We are picking up a distress signal." Lee Dae-ho looked up. "Where from?" "The Kepler 442 system. It is coming from the 3rd planet. The signal is weak, but I think it says, 'Help us,' in the common galactic language." Lee Dae-ho thought for a moment. Earth's government had rules about getting involved in alien conflicts. It was safer to stay away from trouble, but someone was asking for help. "How far away are we?" he asked. 3 days at full speed, Captain." Dr. Park So-young looked up from her science station. She was 38 years old and one of the best alien experts in human space. Her black hair was pulled back and her dark eyes were serious. "Captain, I have been listening to galactic communications. There are rumors about something called the Draktar Empire. They are supposed to be very dangerous. Some people say they are the strongest fighters in the galaxy. What do you know about them?" Lee Dae-ho asked. "Not much. No one who meets them ever sends reports back. But the stories say they are giants. They have crystal skin that cannot be cut or burned. They are said to be 12 feet tall with 4 arms. Every world they visit either surrenders or gets destroyed." Engineer Yoon Ji-hai spoke up from her corner station. She was young, only 26, but very smart with machines. "Captain, if these Draktar are so dangerous, maybe we should call for help before we go there." "The nearest Earth fleet is 2 weeks away," Kim Tae-woo said. "By then, whoever sent that signal might be dead." Lee Dae-ho stood up and walked to the main screen. The stars looked peaceful, but he knew that was not always true. Space could be beautiful and terrible at the same time. "Dr. Park, what do you think we should do?" Park So-young was quiet for a moment. "The Zalani in that system are peaceful people. I studied them last year when we passed through their space. They have never hurt anyone. If someone is attacking them, they have no way to fight back. And if we go there, we might not come back. Yoonji, he said quietly. Maybe, Lee Dae-ho agreed. But we became space explorers to help people, not to run away when things get scary. He turned to face his crew. These people trusted him to make good choices. He had to think about their safety. But he also had to think about the millions of aliens who might be dying while they talked. Marine Sergeant Choi Min-ho, report to the bridge, he said into his communicator. A few minutes later, Choi Min-ho arrived. He was a big man with strong arms and a serious face. He had 20 soldiers under his command. Their job was to protect the ship and the crew. Sergeant, how many weapons do we have? Lee Dae-ho asked. Our ship has basic defensive guns, Captain. My Marines have rifles and body armor. We also have some explosive charges for mining and construction work. Why do you ask? We might be going into a dangerous situation. Someone is calling for help, but there might be hostile aliens involved. Choi Min-ho nodded. My people are ready, Captain. We knew the job might be dangerous when we signed up. Lee Dae-ho looked around at his crew. They were scared, but they were also brave. They were ready to help strangers, even if it meant risking their own lives. Set course for Kepler 442, he ordered. Maximum speed. The Sol Dawn turned toward the distant solar system. Its engines glowed bright blue as it jumped to faster-than-light speed. Behind them, Earth and safety grew smaller. Ahead of them, an unknown enemy waited. None of them knew that they were about to make history. They were about to become the first humans to fight the galaxy's most feared species. They were about to show the universe that sometimes the smallest warriors could be the most dangerous ones. In 3 days, everything would change. The Sol Dawn dropped out of faster-than-light speed at the edge of the Kepler 442 system. What Captain Lee Dae-ho saw on the main screen made his heart sink. The third planet was burning. Orange flames covered whole continents. Black smoke rose into space like angry fingers. My God, whispered Dr. Park So-young. We are too late. Lieutenant Kim Tae-woo worked fast at his station. Numbers and data flowed across his screen. Captain, I am detecting life signs on the surface. Not many, but some people are still alive. Are there any ships in the system? Lee Dae-ho asked. Yes, sir. One very large vessel in orbit around the planet. It is bigger than anything in our database. Lee Dae-ho stared at the burning world. Somewhere down there, people were dying. Maybe they could still save some of them. Take us closer, but keep us hidden behind that moon. The human ship moved carefully through space. As they got nearer to the planet, they could see more details. Cities were destroyed. Forests were ash. Rivers had turned black. Captain, Kim Tae-woo called out. I am picking up a small group of life signs in the northern continent. They seem to be hiding in some kind of underground cave system. Can we get them out? Lee Dae-ho asked. Engineer Yoon Ji-hai looked at her instruments. We have 2 small shuttles. Each one can carry 20 people. But sir, that big ship up there will see us if we go down to the planet. What about the ship? Can you tell me anything about it? Dr. Park So-young had been studying the alien vessel through their telescopes. It is definitely not Zalani design. The shape is all wrong. It looks like it was built for war, not exploration. The hull appears to be made of some kind of crystal material. Lee Dae-ho felt cold fear in his stomach. Crystal hull, like the stories about the Draktar. Captain, Sergeant Choi Min-ho had arrived on the bridge. My scouts are ready. If you want to try a rescue mission, we can do it. It is too dangerous, Yoon Ji-hee said. If that is really a Draktar ship, they will kill anyone who gets close. Lee Dae-ho walked to the main screen and stared at the burning planet. Every minute they waited, more people might die. But if they went down there, they might all die. Sergeant, how would you do it? Choi Min-ho pointed at the planet on the screen. We take one shuttle down fast and low. Land near the cave where the survivors are hiding. Load them up quick and get out. The other shuttle stays here as backup. And if the Draktar ship comes after us, then we run like hell, Captain. Doctor. Park So-young stood up from her station. Captain, I want to go with the rescue team. Absolutely not, it is too dangerous. Sir, I speak 17 alien languages including Zalani. If the survivors are scared, they might not trust human soldiers. They need to see a scientist, someone who looks peaceful. Lee Daho thought about it. She was right. Scared aliens might hide from armed Marines. Fine. But you stay close to Sergeant Choi at all times. 30 minutes later, the shuttle Daegu Hope separated from the Seoul Dawn. Sergeant Choi Min-ho piloted the small craft toward the burning planet. Dr. Park So-young sat behind him with 10 Marines. Their weapons were ready, but they all hoped they would not need them. The shuttle entered the planet's atmosphere like a falling star. Smoke and ash made it hard to see. The air smelled like death and burning things. Below them, the once beautiful Zalani cities were now piles of broken stone. Landing site ahead, Choi Min-ho announced. He brought the shuttle down in a small clearing near the cave entrance. Everyone out, fast! The Marines jumped out first, their rifles ready. The air was hot and hard to breathe. Dr. Park So-young followed them toward the dark cave opening. "Hello?" she called in the Zalani language. "We are here to help. We are friends." For a moment, nothing happened. Then slowly, a small blue face appeared at the cave entrance. It was a young Zalani with big frightened eyes. "Please," the Zalani whispered. "The crystal giants came. They killed everyone. They burned everything." "We know," Dr. Park said gently. "We have come to take you somewhere safe." More Zalani emerged from the cave. There were 18 of them, mostly children and elderly. They looked sick and scared. Some had burns on their blue skin. "Quickly, everyone into the shuttle," Choi Min-ho ordered. As the Marines helped the survivors into the Daegu Hope, one of the scouts called out, "Sergeant, something big is coming down from orbit." Through the smoke and ash, they could see lights falling from the sky. 3 large shapes were dropping toward the planet's surface. "Draktar landing ships," Dr. Park So-young whispered. "Everyone in the shuttle now," Choi Min-ho shouted. The last Zalani climbed aboard just as the first Draktar ship touched down a kilometer away. The ground shook like an earthquake. Then, through the smoke, they saw them. The Draktar warriors were exactly like the stories said, 12 feet tall with 4 arms each. Their skin looked like living crystal that caught and reflected light. They carried weapons that seemed too big for any normal creature to lift. But these were not normal creatures. These were the galaxy's perfect killing machines. Sub-Commander Kralvex led his hunting party across the burned ground. His job was to find any surviving Zalani and kill them. The Draktar did not leave loose ends. That was when he saw the strange ship taking off from the planet's surface. "What is that vessel?" he asked his warriors. "Unknown design, Sub-Commander. It is not Zalani." Kralvex smiled, showing teeth like sharp diamonds. "Then we have found another species to conquer. Shoot it down." Energy beams shot up from the Draktar. Weapons. The first blast missed the shuttle, but the second one hit the rear engine. "We are hit," Choi Min-ho shouted as the shuttle shook and started to fall. He fought with the controls, trying to keep them in the air. Smoke filled the cabin. Several Zalani were crying in fear. "I cannot keep us up much longer," he called to Dr. Park. "Then, put us down somewhere we can fight," she answered. Choi Min-ho crashed the shuttle in a rocky area, a few kilometers from where they started. Everyone was shaken up, but no one was badly hurt. The Marines quickly got out and set up defensive positions. "Behind the rocks, can you call for help?" Dr. Park asked. "The communication system is damaged," Choi Min-ho replied. "We are on our own." Through the smoke, they could see the Draktar warriors walking toward them. There were 12 of the giant aliens, each one carrying enough firepower to destroy a building. "Well," said Marine Private Kang Soo-bin, checking her rifle. "This should be interesting." The Zalani survivors huddled together behind the rocks, too scared to speak. They had never seen anyone fight the Draktar before. No one fought the Draktar. Everyone just died. But these humans seemed different. Instead of running or surrendering, they were getting ready to fight back. Dr. Park So-young spoke to the Zalani in their own language. "Stay low and do not be afraid. These humans are warriors. They will protect you." Sub-Commander Kralvex stopped his warriors 100 meters from the crashed shuttle. He could see the small creatures hiding behind the rocks. They looked weak and soft like most species in the galaxy. "Surrender now and we will kill you quickly," he called out in the common galactic language. Sergeant Choi Minho stood up behind his rock and pointed his rifle at the giant alien. "How about you come and try to take us, Crystal Boy?" Kralvex had never heard anyone talk to a Draktar warrior like that before. For a moment he was too surprised to move. Then he became very angry. The first battle between humans and Draktar was about to begin. Sub-Commander Kralvex raised his massive energy weapon and fired at the rocks where the humans were hiding. The blast turned stone into dust and fire. When the smoke cleared, he expected to see dead bodies. Instead, he heard something that no Draktar had ever heard before: human laughter. "Is that the best you can do?" Sergeant Choi Minho called out from a different position. While the Draktar was shooting, the humans had moved. Kralvex spun around, confused. The small creatures were not where they were supposed to be. His warriors looked at each other uncertainly. This had never happened before. Dr. Park So-young crouched behind a boulder with 3 Zilani children. She spoke softly to them in their language while keeping her eyes on the battle. "The crystal giants are confused," she told them. "Watch how the humans fight. They do not stand in one place like targets." Marine Private Kang Subin crawled through the rocks like a snake. She had grown up hunting in the mountains of Korea. Moving quietly through rough ground was natural to her. She found a good spot behind the Draktar warriors and aimed her rifle. Her first shot hit Kralvex in the back of his crystal head. The bullet bounced off harmlessly, but it got his attention. He turned around fast, all forearms swinging his weapon toward her. But she was already gone, moved to a new hiding spot. "Impossible," Kralvex roared. "Nothing can move that fast, Sergeant." Choi Minho smiled grimly. These aliens were big and strong, but they were also slow and clumsy. They fought like they expected their enemies to stand still and let themselves be killed. "Marines," he called out. "Hit-and-run tactics. Keep moving." Engineer Yoon Ji-hee had come down with the rescue team because she was good at fixing broken things quickly. Now she was fixing something else. She was making bombs. Using parts from the crashed shuttle and some mining explosives, she built small charges that could be thrown by hand. "Sergeant," she called, "I have some presents for our new friends." She tossed one of her homemade bombs toward the Draktar group. The explosion was not big enough to hurt the crystal-skinned warriors, but it did something more important. It created smoke and dust, making it hard for them to see. The humans used the confusion to change positions again. They spread out in a wide circle around the Draktar, attacking from all sides. Corporal Lee Hyun-woo had brought the team's heavy weapon, a plasma rifle designed for cutting through ship hulls. His shot actually managed to crack one Draktar warrior's crystal skin. Black blood leaked out of the wound. Kralvex stared at his injured soldier in shock. In 3,000 years of conquest, he had never seen a Draktar warrior bleed in battle. "How is this possible?" he asked the wounded warrior. "I do not know, Sub-Commander. The small creatures fight like nothing we have ever seen. They are like shadows that strike and disappear." The battle continued for 20 minutes. The humans could not really hurt the Draktar much, but the Draktar could not hit the humans at all. Every time they aimed their weapons, the humans were somewhere else. Dr. Park So-young watched the fight while protecting the Zilani survivors. She was a scientist, not a soldier, but she understood what she was seeing. The Draktar were physically superior in every way. They were bigger, stronger, and tougher. But they had one weakness. They had never learned to think like prey. For 3,000 years, the Draktar had been the hunters. Every species they met was weaker than them. All they had to do was stand in the open and shoot. Their enemies either ran away or died quickly. But humans had spent millions of years as both hunters and prey. They knew how to hide, how to move without being seen, how to attack from unexpected directions. These skills were built into their DNA. "Sergeant Choi," Dr. Park called out. "I have an idea." She crawled over to where the sergeant was reloading his rifle. "These Draktar have never fought anyone who could really challenge them," she explained quickly. "They are confused and getting angry. Angry fighters make mistakes." "What do you suggest, Doctor?" Make them even more angry. Get them to chase. You away from the Zilani. Then we can use their own size against them. Choi Minho grinned. I like the way you think. He stood up from behind his cover and waved at the Draktar warriors. Hey, crystal faces. You fight like old ladies. My grandmother could move faster than you, Kralvex roared in rage. No one had ever insulted a Draktar warrior and lived. Kill the small one, he ordered his soldiers. The Draktar warriors charged toward Choi Minho's position, their heavy feet shaking the ground. But when they reached the rocks where he had been hiding, he was gone again. Over here, slowpokes, he called from 50 meters away. The angry aliens charged again. And again, their target vanished before they could reach. Him Yunji Haye had been busy while the Draktar were chasing the sergeant. She placed her remaining explosives in a narrow canyon between two large rock formations. When she was done, she called out to Choi Minho. Sergeant, lead them into the canyon. Choi Minho understood immediately. He ran toward the narrow passage, between the rocks, making sure the Draktar could see him. The giant warriors followed, their weapons ready. Come on, you oversized crystals, he taunted. Catch me if you can. All 12 Draktar warriors squeezed into the narrow canyon, their forearms scraping against the rock walls. They were so focused on catching the annoying human that they did not notice the small explosive devices hidden on the canyon walls. Yoon. Jihai waited until all the aliens were inside the passage. Then she pressed the detonator. The explosions brought down tons of rock from the canyon walls. The Draktar warriors were not crushed. Their crystal skin protected them from that. But they were trapped under heavy stones that even their great strength could not move quickly. Kralvex lay pinned under a boulder, unable to move 3 of his 4 arms. Around him, his warriors struggled helplessly against the weight of the rocks. Sergeant Choi Minho walked over to where the sub-commander was trapped. He pointed his rifle at the alien's head. Now then, he said calmly. Let's have a little talk. Dr. Park So-young joined him, her scientific curiosity overcoming her fear. This is incredible, she whispered. We actually captured a Draktar warrior alive. From the rocks around the canyon, the other Marines kept their weapons ready. The trapped Draktar were not going anywhere, but it was better to be careful. The Zilani survivors emerged from their hiding spots, staring in amazement. They had just watched a handful of humans defeat the galaxy's most feared warriors. It seemed impossible, but it had happened. The crystal giants can be beaten, one elderly Zilani whispered in wonder. Captain Lee Daeho's voice crackled over. The communicators. The Sol Dawn had come down through the planet's atmosphere to look for the rescue team. Sergeant Choi, report. Are you all right down there? We are fine, Captain, Choi replied. And we have a prisoner for Dr. Park to study. A prisoner? What kind of prisoner? Sergeant Choi Minho looked down at the trapped Draktar sub-commander. Kralvex glared back at him with hatred and confusion. The kind that is going to change everything, sir. Within hours, news of the human victory spread across the galaxy. For the first time in 3,000 years, someone had fought the Draktar, and won. The impossible had happened. On distant worlds, enslaved species whispered the story to each other in secret. Some of them began to hope, others made plans. And in the depths of space, the Draktar Empire prepared for war. Admiral Bang Hyun-sik stood in the command center of Earth's largest space station, reading the report from Captain Lee Dae-ho for the 3rd time. Around him, military officers worked at computer screens, their faces serious and worried. They actually captured one alive? Asked Colonel Oh Yoonji, the head of Earth's Special Forces. Yes, Admiral Bang replied. Dr. Park So-young has been studying the prisoner for 2 weeks. Her findings are disturbing. He activated the main display screen. Dr. Park's face appeared, speaking from the research facility where they were keeping the Draktar sub-commander. Admiral, the Draktar are even more dangerous than we thought, she began. Their crystal skin can stop almost any weapon we have. They are incredibly strong and fast. But more importantly, they have never lost a battle. Ever. What do you mean? Admiral Bang asked. I mean that in 3,000 years of conquest, no species has ever successfully fought back against them. They have destroyed or enslaved over 800 different civilizations. The prisoner, Kralvex, honestly believes that defeat is impossible. Colonel O leaned forward. What about their weaknesses? They have very few, but I have found some important things. First, they are not used to fighting enemies who can think creatively. All their tactics are based on overwhelming force. Second, they fight as individuals, not as a team. And third, Dr. Park paused. They are coming for us. The room went quiet. How do you know? Admiral Bang asked. Kralvex told me. He thinks humans are an interesting challenge, but he is not worried. The Draktar Empire is sending their 7th fleet to Earth. 50 warships and 200,000 warriors. Admiral Bang closed his eyes for a moment. Earth's entire military had maybe 30 ships that could fight in deep space. Against 50 Draktar warships, they would not stand a chance in a direct battle. When will they arrive, he asked. 6 months, maybe less. Colonel Oyunji stood up. Then we need to get ready, and we need to fight smart, not strong. Over the next 4 months, Earth became a giant military factory. Dr. Lim Haiwan, the military's best strategic planner, worked with engineers to design new weapons and tactics. She had studied every piece of information they could get about Draktar fighting methods. They always attack directly, she explained to a room full of ship captains. They fly straight at their targets and expect their enemies to do the same. They have never faced an enemy that uses stealth or deception. Lieutenant Shin Dong-wook raised his hand. He was the best pilot in the Earth Defense Force, and he would be leading the fighter squadrons when the Draktar arrived. Ma'am, our fighters are much smaller than their ships. Can we use that? Exactly, Dr. Lim smiled. You will be flying modified fighters with cloaking devices. The Draktar will not be able to see you until you attack. Captain Ryu Youngmin, commander of the stealth cruiser Busan Strike, looked at the battle plans. What about their main fleet? Even with surprise attacks, we cannot destroy 50 warships. We are not going to destroy their fleet, Admiral Bang explained. We are going to make them think twice about attacking anyone ever again. General Kang Soo-jin had been training ground forces for months. Her soldiers practiced fighting in asteroid fields, inside space stations, and on the surfaces of moons. They learned to use the environment as a weapon. Remember, she told her troops, the Draktar are bigger and stronger than us. But they have never fought in zero gravity. They have never had to worry about their enemies using the environment against them. Tech specialist Song Hyejin worked day and night on new computer systems. Her artificial intelligence programs could analyze Draktar battle patterns and predict their next moves faster than any human could think. The key is adaptation, she explained to her team of programmers. Every time they try a new tactic, our computers will already know how to counter it. When the Draktar 7th Fleet finally arrived at the edge of Earth's solar system, they expected to find a frightened planet ready to surrender. Instead, they found something that confused them. Nothing. Commander Velthak stood on the bridge of his flagship, staring at the empty space around Earth. His sensors showed the blue and green planet spinning peacefully in the distance. There were no defensive fleets waiting to fight. No orbital weapons platforms, no signs of military preparation at all. This is strange, he said to his officers. Where are their ships? Perhaps they have hidden them behind their moon, suggested one of his captains. Or perhaps they are so frightened that they have already surrendered, said another. Velthak was not convinced. The humans who had captured Kralvex had not acted like cowards. They had fought with intelligence and creativity. He did not think they would give up without a fight. Send a scouting force toward the inner system, he ordered. 5 ships. Tell them to be careful. The 5 Draktar warships moved slowly toward Earth. Their crews were confident but alert. They had never lost a battle, but they had also never fought humans before. That was when Lieutenant Shin Dong-wook struck. His squadron of 12 fighters appeared out of nowhere, their cloaking devices shutting off just as they opened fire. The small human ships moved like angry wasps around the giant Draktar vessels, too fast and too small to hit with the aliens' massive weapons. What are those things? The Draktar squadron leader called out. Before anyone could answer, the fighters were gone again, vanished back into the darkness of space. But they had left presents behind. Captain Ryu Young-min watched from his hidden position behind an asteroid as the Draktar ships tried to figure out what had happened. His stealth cruiser Busan Strike was invisible to their sensors, coated with materials that absorbed radar and energy scans. The presents that Shindong Wook's fighters had left were small devices that attached to the Draktar ships' hulls. They were not bombs. They were much more annoying than that. The devices began broadcasting on every communication frequency the Draktar used, but instead of military messages, they played Earth music. Loud, terrible Earth music. "Make it stop," the Draktar squadron leader screamed as heavy metal rock songs blasted through his ship's speakers. His crew tried to shut off their communication systems, but the human devices had infected their computers like a virus. The music played louder and louder until the crystal-skinned warriors had to cover their ears, but that was just the beginning. While the Draktar were distracted by the music, General Kang Soo-jin's soldiers launched from hidden bases on asteroids throughout the solar system. They used small, fast ships to attach to the outsides of the alien vessels. The Draktar had never fought borders before. When armed humans started cutting through their ship hulls with plasma torches, they did not know how to respond. "Sir," one of the Draktar captains called to his commander, "small creatures have entered our ship. They are moving through the ventilation systems. Use your weapons. Kill them. We cannot. They are inside our own ship. If we use heavy weapons, we will damage our own systems." The human soldiers moved through the Draktar ships like ghosts. They planted explosives on important systems, stole computer data, and generally caused chaos. Then they escaped before the confused aliens could catch them. Within 2 hours, all 5 Draktar scouting ships were floating dead in space. Their engines were damaged, their computers were full of viruses, and their crews were going crazy from the loud music that would not stop playing. Commander Velthak stared at the disabled ships in shock. This was impossible. The humans had not destroyed the Draktar vessels, which would have been difficult enough. Instead, they had captured them without killing anyone. It was humiliating. "Recall those ships," he ordered angrily, "and prepare the main fleet for battle." "Sir," one of his officers asked nervously, "what if the humans have more surprises?" Velthak's crystal skin glowed red with anger. "Then we will find out what they are." But deep down, for the first time in his long military career, he was beginning to feel something that no Draktar warrior had ever felt before. Doubt. Commander Velthak had spent 3 sleepless days trying to understand how humans fought. Every time he thought he knew what they would do next, they did something completely different. His mighty 7th Fleet was being made to look foolish by a species that had only been in space for a few hundred years. The final battle began in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. But it was not really a battle. It was a demonstration. President Moon Sang-woo stood on the bridge of the flagship New Seoul, watching as thousands of ships moved into position around the Draktar fleet. But these were not all human ships. Word of humanity's victories had spread across the galaxy like wildfire. For the first time in 3,000 years, enslaved species had hope. The Zalani had come, bringing their small transport ships filled with refugees from other Draktar attacks. The Korvani brought their medical vessels ready to help wounded from both sides. Even the proud Asthari had sent their crystal ships to support the humans. But the most important arrival was the fleet of Mordan warships. The Mordan had been the last species to resist the Draktar Empire. They had fought for 50 years before finally being conquered. Their surviving ships had been hiding in the dark spaces between stars, waiting for a chance to fight back. Captain Dex Mari of the Mordan flagship sent a message to President Moon. "We offer our ships and our lives to your cause, humans. Show us how to beat the crystal tyrants." "Sir," Admiral Bang reported to the president, "we have over 300 ships from 47 different species. The Draktar are outnumbered 6-1. But President Moon shook his head. "Numbers will not win this war. We need to change how the galaxy thinks about conflict itself." He opened a communication channel to Commander Velthak's flagship. Commander, Velthak of the Draktar Empire, this is President Moon Sangwoo of Earth. I would like to speak with you. On the Draktar bridge, Velthak stared at the communication request in confusion. No enemy leader had ever asked to talk before a battle. They usually just surrendered or died. What do you want, human? He asked when he accepted the call. President Moon's face appeared on the main screen. He was an older man with kind eyes and gray hair. He did not look like a warrior, which confused Velthak even more. I want to offer you a choice, President, Moon said calmly. You can continue fighting wars that will never end, or you can help us build something better. Better? Velthak laughed, a sound like breaking glass. We are the Draktar Empire. We are the strongest species in the galaxy. We do not need anything to be better. Look around you, Commander. Your enemies are not just humans anymore. They are every species you have conquered and enslaved. Even if you win this battle, how many more will you have to fight? How many more worlds will rebel against you? Velthak was quiet for a moment. The human was right. Reports had been coming in from across the Empire. Rebellions were starting on dozens of worlds. Species that had been slaves for centuries were suddenly fighting back. What are you suggesting? He asked. Ambassador Zhang Mi-young stepped forward on the human bridge. She had studied galactic politics for 20 years, and she understood how different species thought. We are suggesting a partnership, she said. The Draktar are great warriors. The galaxy needs warriors, but it needs them to fight real threats, not to conquer peaceful worlds. What threats? Velthak asked, though he was beginning to listen, more carefully. Dr. Park So-young, who had spent months studying galactic history, activated a holographic display. It showed the edge of the galaxy, where strange signals had been detected. Our deep space monitors have found something approaching from outside the galaxy, she explained. Automated ships that consume entire star systems for resources. They are still far away, but they are coming. And you think the Draktar should fight these machines instead of conquering worlds? Fleet Admiral Park Jun-ho spoke up from his command station. Commander, your warriors are the best fighters in the galaxy. But fighting is not the same as conquering. A true warrior protects those who cannot protect themselves. Velthak was silent for a long time. Around him, his officers waited to see what he would decide. Finally, he spoke. What exactly are you proposing? President Moon smiled. A galactic cooperative. Every species contributes what they do best. The Draktar provide military protection. Humans provide coordination and strategy. The Korvani provide medical care. The Azthari provide advanced technology. Together we explore the galaxy and defend it against real threats. And if I refuse, then you will continue fighting wars against enemies who now know how to beat you. Your empire will fall eventually, and billions will die in the process. Velthak looked at the display showing all the ships surrounding his fleet. For 3,000 years, the Draktar had won through superior strength. But these humans had shown that strength alone was not enough. They had turned the entire galaxy against his empire using nothing but hope and clever tactics. Show me these approaching threats, he said finally. For the next hour, human scientists shared everything they knew about the alien machines coming from outside the galaxy. The automated ships were huge, built to harvest entire solar systems. They had no interest in negotiation or surrender. They simply consumed everything in their path. How long do we have? Velthak asked. Maybe 10 years before they reach the outer rim, Dr. Park replied. We need to be ready. Sub-Commander Kralvex, who had been released as a gesture of good faith, spoke from his position beside Velthak. Commander, I have studied these humans for months. They do not think like us, but their ideas work. Perhaps it is time to try a new way. Velthak thought about his conversation with President Moon. The human leader had not threatened him or demanded surrender. Instead, he had offered respect and partnership. It was something no Draktar commander had ever experienced before. Very well, he said finally. We will try this cooperation. But if it fails, if your species proves weak or untrustworthy, the Empire will resume its expansion. Understood. President Moon replied. But I do not think it will fail. 3 months. Later, the first joint training exercises took place in the Proxima Centauri system. Human tacticians worked alongside Draktar warriors, teaching them new ways to fight. Draktar commanders trained human soldiers in advanced combat techniques. Fleet Admiral Park Jun-ho watched from the bridge of his flagship as mixed crews of humans, Draktar, and other species worked together on the same ships. It had seemed impossible just a year ago. Admiral, reported Captain Lee Dae-ho, who had been promoted after his successful first contact mission. The joint patrol fleet is ready for deployment. Where are they going? Admiral Park asked. The Vega system. Pirates have been attacking civilian ships there. It will be the first test of our new partnership. Admiral Park smiled. Send them out, and remind the Draktar commanders that they are protectors now, not conquerors. On the surface of the Draktar homeworld of Velthun, construction had begun on a massive new facility. It would be the headquarters of the Galactic Cooperative, where representatives from all member species would work together to coordinate defense and exploration. Ambassador Jong Mi-young stood in the construction site, watching human engineers work alongside Draktar builders. Nearby, Zelani artists were designing monuments to commemorate the new alliance. It is amazing, said General Kang Soo-jin, who had come to oversee security arrangements. 6 months ago, these species were enemies. Now they are working together to build something that has never existed before. Humans have always been good at bringing different groups together, Ambassador Jeong replied. We just had to show the galaxy that cooperation works better than conquest. As the months passed, more species joined the Galactic Cooperative. Trade increased between worlds. Scientific knowledge was shared freely. And most importantly, when the first automated harvester ships finally arrived at the edge of the galaxy, they were met by a united defense force. Commander Velthak stood on the bridge of his flagship, now flying alongside human and alien vessels. The approaching enemy ships were massive, each one the size of a small moon. But they faced a galaxy that was ready for them. All ships, this is Commander Velthak, he announced over the communication channels. Today we fight not for conquest, but for protection. We fight not as separate species, but as one people. For the galaxy. The battle against the harvester machines was long and difficult, but the combined fleets, using both Draktar strength and human tactics, managed to drive back the invaders. When it was over, Velthak found himself standing next to Captain Lee Dae-ho in the Fleet Command Center. Your species has taught mine something important, the Draktar commander said. Strength without wisdom is just destruction, but wisdom without strength cannot protect those who need protection. Captain Lee smiled. And your species has taught us that sometimes you need the biggest stick in the room to make peace possible. Tech specialist Song Hae-jin looked up from her computer station. Sirs, we are receiving messages from across the galaxy. Every species that heard about the battle wants to join the cooperative. As the years passed, the galaxy became a different place. Wars still happened, but they were smaller conflicts that were resolved quickly through diplomacy or limited military action. The great age of conquest was over, and in the deep archives of Earth,